Hello everyone, my name is Cool Cat Terry. It is January 15th, 2022, and this is Just a Glimpse.
Just a Glimpse! Not your average podcast. Are you ready to get angry? Covering
Movies,
gaming, politics. Just a Glimpse.
Alright everyone, so on this episode, we are going to talk about representation and why I believe it doesn't matter. Now, this is a pretty hot take. I know a lot of you are instantly going to be like screaming at me like, representation matters! But guess what? No, it doesn't. And if you will sit there, calm down long enough to hear me out, maybe we can have an understanding, or at least have some common ground. Now, when you look at the topic of representation matters, you're often going to hear this mostly from two groups in society. The Black community and the LGBT community. They're the ones that scream about it the loudest. Now, why do they do this? They want to claim that children, as well as themselves, need to be properly represented in all forms of media, whether it's TV, film, comics, cartoons, anime, whatever. They feel that if there isn't a character that matches their identity politics, whether it's race, skin color, sexual orientation, gender, that there's no way that they can relate to those characters. Now, this is just complete utter BS. There's a YouTuber that I'm going to show a snippet from one of his videos on this topic. He related to The Flash as a kid. And this YouTuber is also Black. It had nothing to do with race. It had to do with the fact that he related to the Flash because the Flash's power was all about running fast. And for him as a kid, he was really big in track and field and running and sprinting. So from an athletic standpoint, that character was most relatable to him. That's great. To those of you who instantly discredit me because I'm white or because I'm a woman, let me have YouTuber Eric July, also known as Young Rippa, let him share his viewpoint. This is from a video he made 2 years ago. So if you're not going to listen to the white woman, listen to the Black man.
Now, when I bring up, like, say, race changes in comics or tokenized characters that only exist to be a minority, there are some people who will say, or in turn say, things like representation matters. Of course, they always signal to the kids. Now, though not exclusively, this tends to be in reference to race, right? So when the race change exists, you call it out, you get those things said to you like, what's wrong with you? How could you possibly be mad that some little boy or girl can feel like they can now matter? You know, they feel like they are represented. I have a fucking problem with that. This idea is a very irresponsible and toxic thing to instill in someone that's young. And if you adopt this idea as an adult, well, something is legitimately wrong with you. Now let's start here. First and foremost, your own self-esteem should not be reliant upon anybody else, especially fictional characters or people in movies and television. You should not need validation from these other people. I call this toxic because these people are not going to always be around. Sometimes you are going to be isolated and have to create your own way. You gotta be comfortable with yourself and inside your own skin, because sometimes you may actually be the first of your kind going into that avenue that you wish to go into. Now, you can't be looking to some savior in the flesh, because once that is stripped away from you, it's terrible for your mental health because you have now become dependent. But it ain't just with mere validation seeking that's the problem. I get it, I'm not stupid. When you see others a part of something in life that you sort of favor, it's a really good feeling because you can relate to it, right? But the problem with this representation matters thing is that they have now limited the ability to relate to someone to, let's say, something like race. That is, if I don't see someone that has black skin or brown skin, then I can't relate to it and I can't enjoy it. Or I would think something is wrong with myself, and that is for losers. But when talking about these kids, man, I don't think you representation matters type understand that you actually like reinforce racism. That is a learned trait. Have you seen young kids at the playground, bro? They will play with any and everybody. It isn't until they are older and they get these sort of rotten damn school systems and you as a parent started overemphasizing race and racism until they started really getting that idea that they absolutely have to gravitate towards people that are the same damn color as them. And I'm not saying that kids should be raised to be colorblind or ignore the concept of race. I'm saying when it comes to like human interaction, it is absolutely irresponsible to reinforce this idea that their livelihood, their friendships, and their relationships must prioritize race.
Growing up, I watched a lot of different cartoons. I enjoy characters from all walks of life. I don't care what their race or gender is or anything like that. I've been able to relate to characters that are male. I've been able to relate to characters that are not white. So it makes me think, and it also gets me upset when I hear that if the character doesn't look like them, they can't relate to it. Why? Why are you putting so much weight on skin color? That isn't a trait that you need to relate to. When we go back and we look at things that we relate to as kids. Now keep in mind, I was born in the mid-'80s, so I grew up as a 90s kid. So in the 90s, there was lots of representation for everyone. Maybe not so much for the LGBT, because that was definitely a difficult time, but there was representation in the 90s for LGBT characters. It just wasn't as popularized as it is today, but it still existed. If we just want to look at race, since this topic mostly circulates race, I'm going to look at the fact that growing up, I used to watch shows like Recess. I watched shows like Proud Family, The Cosby Show, Family Matters. These are all fantastic family entertainment that was acceptable for kids to watch, that had great topics of discussion for children, and they represented people of all races. Recess covered everything. Your main characters were male, female, you had different races in there. You had tall kids, short kids, thin kids, fat kids. Everybody was represented in Recess. Okay? And then you look at cartoons like The Proud Family and good, wholesome family entertainment like Family Matters, and they properly represented Black families and kids. And then you go and you see people today complaining about how they didn't have representation growing up, which is a complete, utter freaking lie, and it's a cop-out, play victim. Or you'll have people today going on about how they need to have the representation because otherwise they feel like they're going to go unnoticed. Like, how are you going to go unnoticed? People... This is a ploy that Hollywood, political figures, media, they all perpetuate this propaganda idea on people to think that if you're marginalized, you have to see someone in media that looks like you, has the same race or skin tone as you, for you to have an identity, for you to be important and matter. You don't need any of those things. You don't need those things to relate to a character. Asked my husband, who is half Black, what character he most related to as a kid. He told me Superman. Superman's not Black. He didn't relate to Superman because he was a Black character. He related to Superman because he enjoyed the idea that he was a Boy Scout type character who was all about, helping people, and he had a lot of strong powers, and he made everybody feel good about themselves and help them find their own inner strength. He was a positive role model. That's why he related to Superman. It has nothing to do with race. So why do you need to look at characters based on race versus other things that you can relate to? All this does is shame you into thinking that if you don't see someone who's gay or trans or Black or Asian or Latino on TV, in cartoons, in comic books, wherever, that you don't have a voice. You're not important. You're not represented, so you don't matter. And that's not the case. Everybody matters, and everybody is capable of relating to a fictional character regardless of an identity that you want to place on that character. That identity doesn't make the character. What the character's actions are, what they do, that's what defines that character. People today are so hung up on this idea that we have to focus on our personal identity based on gender, race, sexual orientation, because that's what makes you you. And it's like, that's a small part of what makes you you. Those are not the forefront things that make you you. When I go and meet someone for the first time, I couldn't care less who they find sexually attractive. Okay? That doesn't matter at all. Okay? All I care about is what kind of personality you have. Are you someone that I'm going to be able to get along with and be able to find some common ground and talk to? Okay? I don't care who you want to sleep with. I don't care what your skin color is. Okay? I don't care if you grew up rich or poor. None of that matters. Those are just things that people place on themselves to either make them feel like a victim, so that they have to, try to get people to feel sorry for them. Oh, I was poor, or I grew up in a bad neighborhood, or I'm a minority, so woe is me. My life is so much harder because everybody tells me it is. Is your life actually harder? It really is just nonsense. And this is a tactic that is pushed on children. Kids, you don't care what race they are or what gender they are. You don't care about any of that when you're a kid. Those traits are learned by adults and by Hollywood, media. They push all these ideas that, race is a big thing. You should not like that person because they're white. You should not like that person because they're black or brown. Adults and media push that narrative. Children don't see that. They have to be taught that. Why are you teaching your kid that? When a lot of you are activists and you say that racism is so bad, but yet it's the adults in the media that are teaching kids to be racist. Representation doesn't matter. It's just an excuse. A huge excuse to keep people feeling down. So they think that they need somebody else to give them a lifeline. And that's not the way. You shouldn't have to feel shame or feel like you're a victim. Stop letting media and other adults put you down. Be proud of who you are. Stop caring so much about your skin or your gender or your sexual orientation. Like I said, those are just a small thing of what makes you you. And I already know there's going to be a lot of people on here listening that are going to immediately discredit me because I'm white. Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't understand how representation matters because she's white. Pretty much all the characters on TV are white, so she doesn't get it. Bullshit. Like I said, I grew up in the 90s. Majority of the shows that I grew up with had an even split between black and white characters. I watched, like I said, Proud Family, Cosby, Family Matters. My parents watched a lot of older television, so I also grew up on Sanford and Son and the Jeffersons. And you gotta want to sit there and go on about how there was no representation on TV. Oh, when I grew up, I didn't see anyone that looked like me. Absolute BS. All right? Sister, It's So Raven. These are all popular shows in the 90s that represented people that were black. But yet you all magically forget about these shows that you all watched. You all watch these shows. But as soon as someone wants to talk about representation, it's like, poof! All those shows that you watched as a kid magically get forgotten about. Oh no, I didn't have anybody to look up to growing up. Bullshit, you didn't. Stop playing the victim and stop lying to yourself and stop lying to everybody else. You had lots of representation growing up. I remember watching the Hughleys. I'm tired of people going on about how there's no one that looks like them. Lots of movies had starring black roles. I remember growing up and everybody was going on about Denzel, as well as Will Smith. Come on. Acting like you had nobody to look up to. Comics. There are a plethora of comic book characters that are not white. You all act like none of them exist. A lot of them have existed since like the 70s. But yeah, they don't exist. Stupid. Growing up, I like comic characters. X-Men. A lot of times when you ask people what their favorite character is for X-Men, the most common one that people will say is Wolverine. Mine was Storm. She's black. I was a white kid. I loved her as a character. I didn't give a crap that she was black. Why do you? Why do you care so much? It doesn't matter. She was a badass character. I was a white kid. I enjoyed her more than the white characters. All right? Just like a black kid could enjoy white characters more, or Latino characters, or Asian characters more. Race doesn't matter. Anime. Anime is very popular today. It was a big thing in the 90s, but now, here in the 2020s, we'll say 2020s, anime is definitely at its all-time high. And it's very, very big within the black community. I know plenty of black people who relate to anime characters. Those are Asian characters that you relate to. They don't need to be black. You know, lots of the people relate to Naruto, for example. He's not black. Race doesn't matter. You can relate to so many different traits on a fictional character. You do not need race to be your go-to. Stop wanting to feel like you need to be special. Oh, my race makes me special. No, your race just makes you a person. Okay? It's just skin color. None of that shit matters. Are you a good person? Or are you a piece of shit person? That's what people are going to look at first. People just need to stop perpetuating this idea that representation is so important within their culture, because it really isn't. It's mostly just media pushing this on you, so that way they can feel good. Like, oh, hey, Disney over here. Hey, kids, representation matters. We got this little black character that looks just like you. We're so important. You should love us. We're doing great things. We're making you feel like before now you didn't matter. But now that we have this little black kid, you all of a sudden matter. Just bullshit. Marvel and DC, they're all pushing their tokenized characters for years, and they're doing it more and more. They don't really care about representing any of those races or cultures. They just want to be relevant in the news to try to boost their sales, because their sales have been tanking for generations because they're getting slapped by anime. So they're trying to go more politically correct to see if that will spark outrage and get people talking and buying their stuff. They don't give a damn. Representation doesn't matter. It's just a ploy. People gotta stop falling into that nonsense. Find positive traits about a fictional character that you can relate to, and that's it. It doesn't have to be sexual orientation, gender, or race. Whether that person's fast, maybe that person cares about the environment, like Captain Planet. Maybe that person is always helping others and being selfless. Or maybe that person likes to surf and you relate to them because you're a surfer. You know, that person loves animals and you love animals. And there's different things you can relate to. And you have to stop getting so attached, because you're not going to always have... These characters aren't going to get you out of a jam in real life. You got to be strong enough mentally to deal with things that are going to put you down. These characters aren't going to come to your rescue. People get too attached to these characters, and they'll get violent. People get violent over fictional characters because they feel like they're personally being attacked when something is said about a character that they care about. You're not personally being attacked. It's a fictional character. They're not attacking you. They're attacking someone who doesn't exist. People are ridiculous. But yes, so there's my quick hot take on why I believe representation doesn't matter. I know a lot of you are gonna, like I said, you're not gonna listen. You're gonna be stuck in your little racist victimhood bubble, and you're gonna go about how I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm a white woman perpetuating racism, because clearly you're racist towards me, fine. You want to stay in denial and not own it, fine. Maybe you're sexist. Well, she's a woman. She don't know what she's talking about. Stop pushing these traits on kids. Kids are the target. Stop it. You are the ones breeding racism. Making them think that these kids aren't special and they don't matter. They don't have a voice unless they're represented. Stop it. Stop targeting children. All right, that's all I have for you on this one. If you liked what I had to say, please like, subscribe. I'm on Spotify, Apple, and Google if you want to just listen to the show on the go. Otherwise, those that are listening to the show on the go, I'm also on YouTube if you want to see me on video. Check it out. All the stuff is in the description. See you guys next week. This has been another exciting episode of Just a Glimpse. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and family. See you all next time, and don't forget to check out my social media. Links in the information section.